everyone, it's Olivia from Girlybunches, and in this video today I'm going to talk about crochet tension. I've had a few people ask me about this, and there are lots and lots of different things that can go to affect how your overall project will look and maybe make you not very happy with what you've made, and hopefully I might be able to help you sort of understand different factors that you might not have thought about before. So if we start with the ball of yarn, and I'm using a double knit here, which is a common weightage of yarn in the UK. It's not too chunky, it's not too thin. It's a good yarn to start working with if you've never crocheted or knitted before. It's a nice weight yarn. This ball here tells me I've got 100 grams, so that's 100 grams in weight, but it also tells me that for that 100 grams I should get 274 meters, which is 300 yards. So if you're using a slightly chunkier yarn, you still may have 100 grams, but you might not get the same amount of meterage or yardage. So if you're using a different weight yarn to what the pattern tells you to use, then you are going to affect your work and how much yarn you're going to need. For example, this double knit yarn tells me on this packet that I should be using 4mm hooks. So it only has a picture for knitting needles, but you can pretty well much go with what they suggest for knitting needles and crochet hooks. Some packets give you a little picture of a crochet hook as well, but this has just got knitting needles on it. This little chart here, this is a tension chart. Now please tell me if I'm wrong here, but I believe that this is related to knitting. I don't think it's related to a crochet sample. So if you knitted a sample that was, so you cast on 22 stitches and did 30 rows, you should get yourself a 10 by 10 centimetre square if you used 4mm hooks. So if you found that you knitted that square with 4mm hooks and you found that your square was slightly bigger, then what that means is that you have loose tension. Like you don't have an even tension, but you're slightly loose. The way you knit is slightly loose than average. That's not a problem. It's not a problem. Everyone has a different tension. Everyone has a natural tension. And if you found that your square was, say, 9.5 centimetres or 9 centimetres, going the other way, then what that means is, with using the 4mm knitting needles or whatever, then that means that you have a tight tension. You naturally work the yarn tight, which means you might be pulling it a bit too tight. So let's just go with if you're pulling it too tight. So if you were pulling it too tight, you might want to consider using a slightly bigger hook or knitting. Let's say hook for this purpose of this video. You would want to use a bigger hook. If you found your work was coming up bigger than they suggested, then you would consider using a smaller hook. Now, if I just show you this, these two here are identical lengths of yarn, but one of them I've wound up really tightly and one of them is really loose. So if you can see to maybe visualize what I'm trying to say here, that if you knit tight or crochet tight, then you're going to get a smaller result. If you're knitting loosely or crocheting loosely, you're going to get a bigger result. Okay, I'm going to come back to those in a minute. So with I've made a really Blue Peter style display here, and if you're from the UK you'll know what I mean. What I've done is I've taken double knit yarn and I've crocheted a ring. Each ring I think has got 16 stitches. It's either 12 or 16, I can't remember now. They're each identical. They've all got 16 trebles into a loop, all identical. So as I just sort of said, the double knit yarn calls for you to use 4mm hooks. But what I did, sorry I'm moving my camera, what I did was I crocheted it with a 3mm hook, a 3.5mm hook, a 4mm hook, 4.5, 5 and 6mm hook. And as you can see, the 3mm hook, there's not much, you know, there's nothing wrong with it. If I pull it up close, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, it's a little bit tight, but it's not quite as even tensioned as the 4mm hook one. The 3.5mm hook, there's not a lot in it, as you can see. The 4.5mm hook, there's not a lot in it. You know, those three there are perfectly acceptable. The 5mm hook, again, nothing wrong with it, but it's starting to get a bit loose. And when you go up to the 6mm hook, you can see that the loops on the top are definitely more sort of bigger, they're not quite as nicely formed, and it's generally looser than the others. And you can notice the size difference between the 6mm hook and the 3mm hook. So using a different hook will affect your project. So like I say, if you found that you're knitting too tightly, maybe try using a 4.5mm hook, and that would probably help you with your tension. If you're knitting too loosely or crocheting too loosely, then you'll try going with a 3.5mm hook, which will bring in your work. It will make it a little bit tighter. My mum crochets and knits much more tightly than I do. It's just something that you do. It's like we all have different coloured eyes, we all have different colour hair, you know, we're all different, and it goes with the way we work. But there are outside factors, so you could be, you know, it could be particularly stressed at work or at home about something, or you could be really relaxed naturally, you know. It's just one of those things. It's not the end of the world, but it will affect your work, and you know, if you get downhearted about that, then you know, then that's not nice. So then this one, sorry, I can't move my camera, I can a little bit. This one is just, I did a row of trebles. It's not the best sort of example, but you can see how each one gets slightly bigger. And this one is the 6mm hook, and you can see it's definitely a bit flappier than the ones above. Okay, so that's just a little example, just so you can visualise. And this is something that would be really useful for you to do if you're not sure about how you're, you know, what best hook to use. Make your samples, keep a note of them. Each yarn is different, each hook is different, each way you use your yarn and hook together will be different. So keep a record like this. It would be very helpful. I certainly find it helpful for when I'm doing projects, just to start on one hook and then I think maybe I should try a different hook. Okay, so that's enough of the Heath Robinson's examples, but I just wanted to talk about, let's come back to these. So we've discussed about the different yarns, we discussed about the different hooks, but how you treat your yarn will also affect your your work. Okay, so remember I talked about on this packet that you get a certain amount of, where is it, meterage and yardage. So what that is saying is that this, as it was wound, you will get that much. Now, if you undid a project and you wrap it up really tightly like I've done here, what you're doing is you're stretching the fibres of your yarn, and that really isn't an ideal thing to do, and you probably won't even be able to tell. It will be very, very difficult to tell, but you can kind of see how this, you see, has stretched that fibre. See how those twists are much longer than the twists on this one, which I've wrapped up very loosely. I don't know if you can see it. I'm trying not to pull it, so yeah, I think you can see that. So what's happening there is, if you undo a project, which is fine to do, make sure you undo it gently, try not to pull it, and when you wind it back up again, do it very loosely, so as not to pull those fibres. They have already been pulled because you've used them in a project, and when you wrap up yarn really tightly like I did there, that is exactly what you're doing. You are pulling that yarn really tight and you are damaging the fibres. And if you do it like this, then what you're doing is you're stretching that yarn, making it thinner, which means that if you go to use the 4mm hook that the yarn recommends, you will be loose. Your work will be too loose. It'll be the same as using the 6mm hook on the 4mm, on the double knit 4mm yarn. So these are just little things to consider. If I just pull it tight. So I'll put a link down below to the yarn winder that I bought, and I use that to evenly wind up my balls of yarn. So not a bit of a rambling video, sorry about that, but there are just so many different things that can affect your tension. So play around with yarns, make yourself that sample chart. It might help you, and I hope it does help you, because it is such a, well, I think it's a really useful tool to understand how the different size hooks can affect your work. I mean, it might be that you're looking for that really loose effect, so you know, using the bigger hook would be just perfect, but you know, just different things to think about. So actually, yeah, I just want to show one more thing. So using that double knit yarn, I'm going to take the 4mm hook that it recommends, and I'm just going to do a chain, and I'm going to just show you about doing an even chain, especially just to start off your work. If the chain, I mean, it's called a foundation chain, which, you know, suggests that that's what you're going to build upon for the rest of your project. So if you can get the foundation right, then hopefully the rest of the project should be okay. So if I'm just going to do a few stitches like this. Now I'm just holding the work until I get to about 5 stitches along, and then I move my hands to start holding the yarn, the work closer by the hook, and I probably only do about 3, 4 or 5 stitches until I move again like this. If I just kept going, can you see how more action I'm doing with my hands, and I'm less control over the work? And you'll find that it starts getting a bit tighter than it did down here, because I have less control. So move your hands, you know, they are part of the tool to making your work. You know, it's not just the crochet hook and the yarn. Your hands do a lot of the work. They do all of the work. You know, that's silly of me to say, but you know what I mean. You know, as you can see, I'm losing control. I've let go of the yarn. You know, I have no control. When you start having less control, you can end up doing things like this. If you're finding it difficult to pull the hook through, you're pulling it too tight. And I'm doing some really tight ones on purpose here. Like really tight. If you can't get your hook through, you're either using the wrong hook or you're pulling your work too tight. And if I just show you there, those loops there, definitely they're quite stressed out, aren't they? They're very tight, whereas these, you want to be able to easily get your hook through those loops like that. These ones here, I'm pretty sure will be quite difficult. You know, yeah, see, it's I won't be able to get my hook through those. And then conversely, what you don't want to do is you don't want this loop to be too loose. If you have that too loose and you pull the yarn through, what you're doing is you're making the loops too big. Like that. And if you can see through the loops when you're looking at it, you've made that too big. What you want is just enough yarn on your hook to be able to gently and smoothly be able to pull the hook through. You shouldn't be, you know, you shouldn't feel like the yarn is going to slip off the hook, and you shouldn't feel like you can't get the hook through that loop. And that's why I think if you're a beginner and you're new to it, I mean, you can see there the differences. The best advice I have for you is get a ball of yarn, a cheap ball of yarn, get the hook that goes with it, and make as much chain as you can until you are absolutely because that way what you'll do is you'll just be getting used to using your hands with the yarn. I mean, it is difficult, I know, I was there for so many years, I know what it's like trying to learn how to hold the hook, what's comfortable for you. Do I hold it like this? Should I hold it like this? How do I hold the yarn in this hand? I mean you've seen how I hold the yarn in my hand. I can't really describe it, but I do twist the yarn around my, see, trying to describe, I've just trying to describe how I hold yarn is a nightmare, but you can see I twist it round and I put it around my fingers. Some people don't do that, they just hold it like this, like they were knitting. And you know what, if that works for you, then that's what you should do. If holding the yarn like this works for you, that feels really awkward to me, but that's how other people knit and crochet. It's what works for you, and the only way you're going to know is by practicing and just seeing what's comfortable to you, what gives you the best results, and what doesn't hurt your hands. If it's hurting your hands, you're holding it wrong. Don't do that, and we don't want you to hurt yourself, because you want to be able to crochet for a long time, and if you're hurting your hands now, then they're only going to get worse as you get older. And so, you know, just practice. Do this for hours. Do it until you don't have to look at what you're doing. When you don't have to look at what you're doing, just making the chain, it means you're working, it's right, it's clicked for you. Just keep going, hours and hours. Watch EastEnders or something, or the Omnibus on Sunday. Just keep doing this and this and this over and over and over again until it works for you. And because that, once you've learnt this bit, then the rest of your tension will feel natural. You won't have to worry about whether your crocheting is too tight or too loose, because your foundation chain will be right, and everything else after that should work for you. Okay, so you get the idea. I hope you do. I hope you find this video helpful. I hope I haven't gone on too long about it, but I just wanted to cover some things that may have put people off carrying on with crochet, because those are the things that definitely put me off when I was trying to learn myself. And you know, I regret not picking it up sooner, because you know, I really do enjoy it, obviously, and I hope you do too, and I want you to enjoy it as much as I do. So again, thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, I'd love a thumbs up, and yes, you know where to find me: Instagram, Facebook and Twitter, and I've got a new website now, and I'll put a link down below to that, and that's got a blog on it now, so I shall be hoping to keep that more up to date in the future. And yes, thank you very much for watching. I'll be back very soon with more videos. Thank you, bye.